doing it. Hello, everybody on YouTube. Hello, everybody on Twitch. Welcome to DG360. My friend here, River Grit. Awesome dude. In Discord, let me know that he put out some new content, and it's entitled Star Citizen's PvP Problem. Let's check out what River Grit says about the PvP problem, which, by the way, if you're going to listen to anybody about PvP, there's very few amount of people, I can count them on one hand, that I'll listen to about Star Citizen PvP, and I would like to say that River Grit is one of those fingers on my hand. I won't tell you which finger, but it's an important one. Let's see what he's got to say.
I have seen massive amounts of players complaining about the PvP in XenoThreat, from streamers, from Reddit, and Spectrum. Even Board Gamer put out a video on it. So here's the question. Do we have a PvP problem? My short answer is no, but let's dive a bit deeper and see if we can both figure out where the root of the problem is. Alright, first, let's put ourselves in the shoes of someone that might play solo. You're aware XenoThreat is live, maybe you've seen the YouTube video CIG released, or perhaps you read it on pipeline leaks. You do a quick peep of the RSI website to confirm, yep, it's up and running. Excited to earn the reward of a new set of unique armor. You warm up the launcher and enter the verse. Upon arrival, you're in awe. That Idris is so cool. As you pop out of nav mode, scanning the horizon, you see a couple unfriendly XT ships flying around, with a few players peppered in. You start taking them out one by one. You're at peak immersion right now. A few phases later, while zoned into the whole experience, loading up some cargo, your ship suddenly explodes, followed by cocky GGs and global chat. Yup, a player just killed you, preventing you from completing the mission and forcing you to have to start all over again.
Welcome to Star Citizen.
You're not gonna hit me. Yes.
You have just been initiated, citizen. Listen, this is the same argument I heard with Elite Dangerous, and the reason why Elite Dangerous failed, because it never became the MMO that it wanted to be. That when people were talking about Elite Dangerous, the minority, which were the PvPers, and mostly minority in every game. Like usually PvPers are the minority in any game, MMOs specifically. And what ends up happening is that when you mix a PvE player base and a PvP player base, there's always that friction. What is needed, right? What is the magic ingredient that PvPers and PvEers can get along? And by that, I know there's people out there that don't understand that, which is interesting, because if you're a gamer, you should know this. So let me teach it. Player versus player, player versus environment. Okay, player versus environment players are generally solo players, like River's talking about. They want their own solo experience. God bless them, that's what they want. But I would say this, and I am biased because I'm more of a PvPer. So let me just preface what I'm about to say with that. I think that when you're logging into an MMO, where you have other players in space, and there's supposed to be an element of danger, that when you get involved in these, there should be no area of space that is essentially where you're not going to get blown up by another player, except in a finished game that has mechanics set for you where the security is making it safe. And that's not where Star Citizen's at in the development, which is why you have a lot of fighting between PvP and PvEers. When you're trying to make a game where you're bringing two groups in, you have to design the game so that the AI and the NPC can respond in a quick fashion against those people that are PvPers, against PvEers in designated secure spots. A great example of this, EVE Online. A lot of people would agree with that. There's some out there that don't agree with this analogy. I would like to see those game design elements come into Star Citizen eventually, but we are not close to that. So it seems like a little bit of a cluster right now because of the development cycle and where we're at with Cloud Imperium and how they're developing this game. We only have one system. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to make everybody happy. But in the end, what ends up happening? well, you got a few disgruntled people. I think a lot of PvEers out there that are into the solo play are kind of the quiet majority that don't really voice up and have no real problem with it. And they're just like, yeah, that's, I expected this was going to happen. And I think that actually is the majority of the solo players that don't have a voice because they just decided not to speak out. Because they were just like, I got my big boy pants on and I realize I'm logging into an MMO and I realize there's going to be PvP and I realize I can get blown up. And if that happens, oh, que sera, that's what's going to happen. Right. But you don't hear that player base, which I think is the majority of PvEers. I could be wrong. I think most of them are adults and realize that this is what happens in an MMO, especially at the phase that we're in this development cycle with Star Citizen. I think a lot of people that are understanding of this. Right. But then you got a lot of PvEers that like just want to block out the world. OK, which, hey, if that's their style, okay, but realize what stage you're at in the development, that you're coming into this. There's only one system and AI is nowhere where it needs to be. Security is nowhere designed to be the security that you want. You have to realize the environment that you're in. If you're a PvEer and you're completely oblivious to your environment, then really, are you a PvEer? I mean, that's a deep philosophical question to be asked. If you are literally a PvEer and this is how you play games and you are that unaware of your environment, then what kind of player are you? Are you just a player without anything? What are you doing? Realize what it is that you're getting yourself into. Let's get back to River Grit.
With all the build-up frustration, you turn to Spectrum to see what others are saying. To your relief, others have expressed the same feeling that you share. So you start typing away and theory crafting a way to fix the issue. So how does this fictional person I created propose CIG fix it? Arm assist around XenoThreat? Add 30 UEE Navy ships to shoot PvPers or anyone else that's not playing along with the intended script of how you think XenoThreat should be played? No, none of these solutions work. In fact, no solution this guy could think up would work, for one simple reason. That's because from the start, we are all viewing this wrong. But there is a fix, and it can only be done one way. You see, this player I just mentioned, he mostly plays solo. He's not competitive, he doesn't bother anybody, he's casual. He just enjoys the sights and the excitement that Stanton brings. He expects he'll be able to do whatever and go wherever without consequences. His main goal is completing the mission, a mission that tells him where to go and what to do. It's quite simple, he's just following the script. And nowhere in his plans does he expect to die from some asshat who decides to shoot the ship he was on. He is uncomfortably reminded that this is an MMO. Okay, so we've established that any idea that this guy will bring to the table will not work. And that's because his game loop is different than others. Now I respect...
I will throw in a little bit of disagreement there for my friend River Grit. And I will say that there is a solution. The solution is game design and making sure that lawful systems have quick AI NPC response times, because what you will find is it is a deterrent against PvPers. You can see that. Again, there are exploits, and it's not a perfect example. There are plenty of people that will exploit it. We all know that. If you've been in JITA, you understand it. In EVE Online, you know that. You've seen it. But for the most part, 90% of people that are PvPers will not PvP in high sec because they just don't want to have to deal with the bullshit with the AI and the NPC. So you can somewhat prevent this with great AI and system design. Okay, so there is somewhat of a solution. All right, let's keep going.
Respect all game loops, even griefing. But this guy's only thinking about his game loop. Let's open it up a little bit. In regards to XenoThreat, listen to this clip from Board Gamer and tell me if you pick up on...
And I get that, Stunner. And Stunner says yes, but not 100% danger-free. Yeah, right. And going into River's point right there, Stunner, like you're saying, is like if you're logging into an MMO, you just have to realize you have a risk no matter what. I get that, Stunner.
On anything.
When someone PvPs though, and sort of gets involved effectively on XenoThreat's side, they're taking up a slot of someone that could have been helpful, And then you need to take some of your manpower away from trying to complete this to defend against that PvPer as well.
Take some of my manpower away to defend against the PvPers as well. You see, Board Gamer views this as a negative, but I see it as a fun variable that promotes unique custom gameplay. XenoThreat should not be done solo, just like Jumptown. This is an open world game. Anything could happen. The reason you're complaining is because you can't do it solo. Hell, you're even struggling doing it in a group. I know this because I see it in Discord chat, Spectrum, and Reddit. You are only complaining because at any time someone could come along and prevent you from doing it, interrupting the mission that you set out to do, and that makes you mad. Big events like JT and XenoThreat are the only true dynamic events because there is no script telling you exactly how to complete it. You complete it however you want. It's up to you and your group to figure out how to do it right. And this is the problem. You have people in one game loop that think it's a solo PvE mission, and you have another game loop that plays it completely different. So there has to be a compromise somewhere.
The compromise is great game design. I can't say this enough. The real answer is in the game design. The real answer is in the game design to where PvPers and PvEers can exist fully. If you can create a game that can both harness the asses and seats of both players, both PvPers and PvEers, you are much more successful of a game. Period. Because you've brought in both groups, you've got more players, and you found a way to design the game in which it's somewhat balanced. And you do that with system security and system design. And again, like I said at the very beginning of this is not where we're at. We're not here, right? So like when Cloud Imperium has good intentions to create XenoThreat and these events, right? They have great intentions, but the problem is they have one sandbox that's kind of like that's where and everybody's in it. And so there's nowhere they can once Pyro comes into effect and you have an outlaw system and you have basically a lawful system of Stanton, that'll be the true test. That's when the fun really starts, because then you can play with it, then you can balance it, and all these fights and all these talks will not be as like won't be as passionate. They won't be as there anymore because you're going to start to see those dynamics come into effect. You're going to start to see game design take over. That's really when you're going to stop seeing all this mess of everybody being upset. You know, it's like when you're a kid on the playground. You know where I like to play? In that big iron dome, and I hung upside down, and it was like fucking Thunderdome, and you went in there and you battled it out. And back in those days, they didn't care if you got hurt. They had that sharp mulch below you to try and pad the fall, but that sharp mulch, they could never afford enough of that sharp mulch to, first off, that mulch was crazy sharp. You got splinters up you fall on that. Ooh, you got impaled by that sharp mulch. And they never had enough mulch to cover those stones underneath, and those stones were ready for you. And that's where some people played on the playground. That was the PvP area on the playground. That's where the PvPers played. Then, you had like the merry-go-round. You had relatively safe things. You had swings. Well, swings could be a PvP area. Slides could be everywhere. Like when you're a PvPer as a kid, everything's a weapon. Like the slide was a weapon, the swings were a weapon, the everything. But there were some designated safe places on the playground, right? So like, we don't have that. Like we don't have that with Star Citizen right now. You log into Star Citizen, Stan is the Thunderdome. You are there with the sharp mulch. And the stones. Everybody's playing in the Thunderdome, whether you like it or not, until there's another system and they can move the Thunderdome over to Pyro and then create the save space. We're always going to have these issues. Thank you. Again, I am not a reactor. I am an enhancer. Thank you. Just let you know. Just dropping knowledge bombs on everybody right here tonight. Coming right now.
Before we discover a compromise, let's just take a step back for a second. Could you imagine if CIG came out with Jumptown 3.0 and you unlocked a new armor set upon completion? People would riot. Every PvPer and their mother would be there. And we all know the reason people are getting mad over this XenoThreat thing is because there is a reward attached to it.
Right.
All of a sudden, out of nowhere, PvP is the problem. Well, why is that? Think about it for a second. There are more PvPers now than ever. PvP is fun. It's the game loop that never dies. It's not scripted. Every day is different. Every interaction is different. Yeah, you.
It's why I can't understand why you wouldn't love this type of, I mean, like the dynamic things that happen in the game are always the most memorable moments in any MMO I've ever played. I have never had like a super memorable moment by scripted PvE missions. Now, again, if that's your jam, I'm not trying to poo-poo on your way of play style. You're more than welcome to play that way. But the best moments I can remember in any MMO I've ever played are those dynamic moments that were unscripted, that were player-driven moments. Those are the ones you live for. I can't understand, though, how people... Maybe some PvEers really just never had those experiences. I don't get it. I don't understand that disconnect, you know?
It could be a Bob and cargo trade every day if you want, but that gets boring. It's the same old, same old. And what just happened recently? Alpha 3.23 with the addition of masterminds. This is the truth. We're finding more and more new players coming to AC. We're finding new PvP orgs popping up and trying to make a name for themselves. And we're finding day oneers coming to the game only because they saw piracy or combat on YouTube, not because they saw Astropub on Twitch deliver cargo. But the most important reason why the PvP stock is increasing is because it's easier. Master mode's made the entry to PvP way more achievable. The ceiling has lowered, and having numbers is now more efficient and effective. Before, it took months of training to reach a point where you could hold your own against other PvPers. A skilled pilot could 1v8 a group of casuals, and a good pilot was way more valuable. But Master Modes erased all of that. And now, PvP is more popular than ever. Whether it's organized or not, expect to see that community grow. Alright, now let's get back on track. The current issue with XenoThreat is you have two different game loops that are clashing in one centralized area. You have griefers that just want to murder hobo. You'll have a group of players that are all of the same org trying to lock it down for themselves. You'll have the Joe Schmo board gamer or Space Tomato that are coming to do XenoThreat with their friends just to get the full experience CIG has given them. And then last but not least, you'll have the solo player that doesn't have much time to play during the week, that wants to do it at their own pace. But at XenoThreat, every single one of these game loops I mentioned collide with each other. So first off, if CIG would just fix a few things, here's how it would go. For special events, you need two different type of mission chains. You need one for orgs and you need one for solo players or casual players. Both need to have rewards. Jumptown and XenoThreat should be advertised as group events. What we have is not working. As it clearly mentions in the RSI website, bring some support as XenoThreat or other players may.
You're not gonna hit me.
But River's right. River's right. They need to seriously look at their mission design. They need to make more missions, period. Missions that work. And missions for all different types of circumstances. And I want to see that work done hardcore this year and into next. I think that's something that they could do fairly easily. In terms of the team they have, I think Elliot's on the ball. I think he should look into this. I think he should edit out all the missions that suck right now. And really, I talked about long range scanning and how long range scanning could play into this, and how if there was missions propagated through long range scanning by sending out probes. Very similar to, like, if you remember EVE Online, where you would search for wormholes. You know, if you play EVE Online, there was a whole game loop right there with searching for wormholes. And, you know, the greatest part about long-range scanning and bringing about missions through long-range scanning is you can be directly out of the traffic of heavily populated gaming areas, which would not, you could probably have more stable experiences in areas that are out in space away from fucking everybody. And actually more and more people might do that, spreading the population out a little bit more. I mean, it's a win-win. It kind of seems like that's a win-win, you know? So I really want to see Cloud Imperium work on that.
may try to attack you. But still, we have these schmucks like Smashly complaining.
You, along with a lot of other people, are just out to make other people's game experience worse. That, like, PvPing...
That is such a small percentage of the PvP population, by the way. Like, a lot of PvPers get a real bad, like, all we want to do is ruin people's good times. You know what I mean? Like, I think that you know, I get upset when I hear people get like this. It makes them sound self-righteous and entitled when I hear people complain. You know, like, all you want to do is you just want to poop on everybody. You know, it's like, what?
Randomly in a PvE event... is just
it doesn't have to be a PvE event, by the way. Like, you know, this again, game design. Again, this wouldn't happen. This fight wouldn't even happen. Once Pyro's in, God, I hope Chris and I hope the development teams, I hope they actually design it in such a manner that we will have to not worry about all this bullshit. You know what I mean? You know, like, this is not a dedicated PvE zone, by the way, just so everybody's clear. This is happening in an MMO, and this is happening in an alpha, you know? So, I don't know. I feel like people get on their high horse. This girl is talking about, like, oh, PvP, or you ruined my day. You ruined my experience. It's like, I disagree with her. I disagree.
being a dick.
XenoThreat should be labeled and advertised as a group event with big payouts to be proud of if your group is successful. CIG has to create that hype, give us high risk and high reward. And we saw this work out with a 3.18 drug rush. Even though it was a bug, it made for some amazing gameplay. So advertise and set the expectation that XenoThreat and Jumpdown are group events, and there's going to be a huge payout if you complete it. And as for the casual players that just want to take part in something cool, be told where to go and what to shoot, well, just give them a unique PvE mission chain. But there has to be rewards for that too. Listen, life isn't fair. You can't get a job as a doctor right out of high school. You have to go to college first. So you shouldn't expect to do this XenoThreat mission by yourself and get that big payout. It's impossible because that's meant for a group. If you play solo, do the solo mission chain. It should have the same payout as one of those group event missions after you split it with your org. On the flip side, if you do want the group event reward, then all you have to do is find a group or find an org that's doing it. And if you guys can't get it done, then y'all suck. Right now, there is no hype. Orgs need something to do.
River, man, he is so aptly named. I love River. I love River.
And something to work for, and same for the casuals. And because these so-called dynamic events are in a singular, centralized location, it is very rewarding for griefers and murder hobos. My suggestion would be to make the org events singular and centralized, so it does bring everybody out, but make the sister mission for solos and casuals spread out, just like the overdrive missions. Perhaps.
And how do you spread them out? Long-range scanning mechanics. So easy to implement something like that. It is beyond me why they just don't go to this right off the bat. It would alleviate so many issues. It would alleviate server issues, server-based issues and traffic. It would alleviate the tension and the fighting between PvPers and PvEers. It would give people something additional to do, another game loop. And to me, why they haven't even done something like this yet is beyond me. Like, I can't figure that out. I can't figure that out. I know, Sketch. I know, dude. You said it 1,000 times. Sig said it's a PvP event. Sig gave XenoThreat rep that. What? Yeah, we know, Sketch. We know. I saw. Yes, we saw it. We watched it. It said other players will be there. I get that, Sketch. I get it. My overall point is this. If you want the game to be successful, you need both PvPers and PvEers. And somehow you got to balance it so they get along. Otherwise, the game won't be as successful. And both people will hurt from it. So, like, that's the thing, I guess, you know, I guess the thing I'm trying to get across is game design is so very fucking important to a game. And a lot of people want to make it a PvP versus a PvE. It's not. It's a game design issue. If people start looking at it very polarized and get easily wrapped up in I hate you and I hate you and all this shit, the whole game fucking suffers and both parties fail. Right. You gotta open your minds, people. Like, seriously, if you want the game to be successful, you have to look at this as how many people can we get playing this game and how balanced can we make it, and so that PvEers are having fun and PvPers are having fun, because that means more cash to the entity that's making these experiences, which means the world gets bigger and the experiences get cooler. So, again, the analogy I like to draw, EVE Online security. And we're not going to get there till Pyro is out. Once Pyro is out, let's start judging and see how the development teams are working, separating the outlaw sides of space from the lawful sides of space, and therefore we can have a much deeper discussion. That's what I'm getting at.
Perhaps even utilize dead space or bunkers or anything that there's a lot of.
I like River's fix for now. Because it's a system. We just have one system. So River's fix for now is to add more variance in the mission types. Love it. I think he's dead right now with where we're at in this alpha with one system. I think he's absolutely right. I think it's a quick fix. I think it's a Band-Aid to throw on the issue, right? But you do not, and I will repeat this, you do not want PvPers and PvEers to start going at it head to head. It is the worst thing that could happen for the game. Because then they can't let go. Once PvPers and PvEers go at it hardcore, the game goes down the fucking toilet. And even in this alpha state, you'll start to see numbers drop. You'll start to see players leave if they lock. And it becomes all that's important. And it's a PvPer versus a PvE thing. Goes right down the fucking tube. So something does have to happen, right, Limitless? Because people are so programmed, right, Limitless, to like clench onto one side or another. And what they end up doing is they destroy the very thing they love, the very environment, the very game that they're involved into. Nothing else matters. Everything fades away. Even the game that they so loved, that fades away because all they can think about is the hatred that they have for the other side, right? And it's like game design, people. Game design fixes this, you know?
The reason that murder hobos and griefers are at XenoThreat is because it's easy pickings, fish in a barrel. It's a honeypot of kills, and players will just keep on coming. It's less enticing for murder hobos to have to search for players, and then even if they find them, it's even less rewarding if there's only
Sketch. It's turned into Sketch 360 again. No, Sketch, I get it, dude. I get it. Sketch says, do you understand that when I'm typing 1,000,000 miles a minute, I'm not mad at you, right? You know I love you, right? I do, Sketch. It's okay, dude. I know. I'm just trying to get a message across. I know we all see your messages, dude, over and over and over and over again. like that's my point, Sketch. Like, you know, like here we go. Like now you can type it like this way, and then you can put it in like that. And then you can maybe do that again, but differently. You know what I mean? Like we get it, dude. We get it. We see it.
one or two ships there. So like I said, you have to spread it out.
I'm just a fluffer, though.
To sum it all up, you have missions that are for orgs or bigger groups, and then we have missions for the casuals and the solo players. So in the end, whatever game loop you do enjoy, there's a mission set for you, and both are equally advantageous. CIG needs to set the expectation. It's an MMO. That's the best part about it.
Good video, River. Good video, River. I like his attitude. He's a go-getter, man. He's a PvPer extreme, and I love the PvP, and I love the danger. And this is the problem that happened to Elite Dangerous. Elite Dangerous was all elite, no danger, and the commanders that were playing the game sided with the very safe fetch quest A to B experiences and poo-pooed that it ever wanted to be an MMO. And what did you get? You got very shallow gameplay. It was so far, it was vast in terms of the amount of systems out there, but you got repetitive animations, you got repetitive sequences, you got NPC everywhere. The game did not feel alive, and it flattened out, and it was an inch or two deep in terms of being the depth that you wanted in a game. And they squashed a lot of the PvPers. There's still PvPers. There's still commanders in Elite Dangerous that are PvP, and God bless them. but the game's dead. They're trying to do their best to bring it back to life, but the PvEers came out on top and they won. And I think anytime one side wins over the other side in an MMO, you kill the heart of the MMO. You have to balance it so that you're bringing in both parties, and you have to do it in such a way that the game design allows it. And I think that Cloud Imperium have the people there to figure it out. They're not there yet. They need server meshing. They need another system. They need to implement those designs, and then we can have a deeper talk. And then you'll start to see less PvP versus PvE arguments. You'll still have them. That'll always be part of an MMO. But the better that the teams can design the game to give you system security, the better it will be for the health and the longevity and the wealth of those making it. And look, EVE Online still kicking to this day because they found a way to balance it. Even though they got bought out and another company wanted to skin up the shit and DLC the shit out of it and ruin it, okay, still people playing it because they remember what it was, and it still has core game design elements that keep asses in seats. And part of that, the game design on the system security. And we'll see that. We'll see that, but it's not here yet. In the meantime, let's do what River's saying. Let's vary up the missions a little bit. Let's make them a little bit more accessible to orgs and to PvPers and to PvEers, and perhaps put some labeling on some of this stuff so people understand what kind of missions they're getting into. But realize we're not at that point yet where we can have solo, safe experiences. Just not there. Just not there, guys. So if you're a PvEer and you are like gung-ho solo, you don't want to deal with other people, I gotta say, be careful right now with Star Citizen, because it's not going to give you that experience right now. Anyway, great video, River Grit. Go check out my friend's channel. I really dig his point of view. I agree with a lot what he had to say right there. I do think that game design can be the solution. There is the link to River Grit. I'm going to like that video. I think he did a great job. Please go subscribe to him. Awesome dude. Very real, down-to-earth, genuine, and a member of the DG360 community. I love him. I love him.